Salt Lake City. I was permitted to go in and look at this collection a number of years ago. The collection was housed in a building that the LDS Church owns on the west side of the city, and I invited 2 or 3 of my friends to come along with me. 2 of them photographed this. The other main one was Wayne May from the Ancient American magazine, and then his son and daughter was there. The collection had been collected by 2 men, Soper and Savage, and back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. I might as well tell you up front that the leaders of the LDS Church have considered this collection phony, as well as the Smithsonian Institute and the professors at BYU. However, at the time when the collection first came out, it was the old kind, and since that time there has been 30 other private collections surface, of which Soper and Savage had nothing to do with, and the other collections have the identical languages that are written on their tablets, so it's a little difficult to believe that these are in fact phony. The next thing is that we've learned that there are literally tens of thousands of ruins that have been found all over the eastern part of the United States, to include Michigan, where these were found, and it's hard to believe these people didn't have some form of language that they would have probably recorded these tablets and artifacts with. I was told by the curator that the collection was going to be disposed of by the LDS Church as soon as Sister Hunter passed away. That this was the rumor that he had received, and that so immediately after viewing this, I contacted Sister Hunter. Milton R. Hunter, her husband, had passed away, and I talked to her, and she was in her 80s, and she told me that the collection belonged to her and her family. It was in Milton R. Hunter's will, and that she had already turned the collection over to her daughter, Linda Hunter Adams, who was at BYU. And she wanted me to talk to Linda Hunter Adams and gave me her phone number. And before I could call after hanging up, she got a hold of Sister Adams, and she called me on the telephone. And so I went and met with Linda Hunter Adams at BYU, and I actually gave her a copy. Right here in this picture, we just passed looking at pipes. These items in the front here are lanterns, where they would put a light that they would put a little bit of oil in and burn it for like a candle. And on each one of these items, you'll see this engraving that looks the same on all of them. And they refer to that today as the mystic symbol. They didn't know what it was. It's on the side of this little lantern right here, and you'll see it all over. And it has to do with 5 spikes. And these spikes are, they claim, the spikes that were used to nail Jesus to the cross. And these spikes are used in the formation of, they claim, a sacred name. The Indians claim it's the name of Christ. They have a different name for him than Christ, but they claim it's the name of Christ, and that these people who had evidently, that was a clay box. Here's slate tablets here, and you'll see the dust on them. They've been sitting there for between 20 and 30 years, and we really weren't allowed to handle these items, and there was many of them that were still in the boxes that we couldn't get to. And the curator mentioned that there are lots of these tablets that are not here, and that maybe some in private collections. Here's a tool used to bludgeon people that has the mystic symbol on it. There's my gray head and Wayne May's head, and he's giving us an idea of what he thinks is going on in this tablet, which is actually Moses receiving the 10 Commandments. Whoever phoned this up really had a good knowledge of all of these biblical stories. But it's interesting, these graves predate considerably Columbus, and most likely predate the printing of the first Bible. And so these people they're getting these stories from somewhere else than from the Holy Bible, if they're real. So these tablets are really beautifully done, and they're written on slate, and this slate comes from northern Michigan, in the same state, the area where the burial mounds were. This slate is used for making pool tables and so on. It's still there. Even the clay comes from Michigan. And also, you'll see a lot of brass and copper tools and weapons of war in this collection. And you'll see, well, anyway, this brass and copper all comes out of Michigan also. There's two great big tablets, almost 4 feet long. Excuse me, you'll see those a little bit later. Now, these tablets are just perfectly done. I've studied them, and you can't even find where somebody slipped up and made an error in writing these. Whoever did them were very competent engravers. And but the stories that are on here, the stories are of the flood and Noah and his 3 sons. Books. And I can tell you right now that these will last in the ground a lot longer than any books that we have today. And these are telling a story, I believe, of people in the past. There's holding it together. Now here is a little print. I don't know how far back this goes in time, but this is actual print used to press into soft clay tablets. And you'll see some samples of that. Most of the original clay tablets have all disintegrated now. Actually, this collection was not very well taken care of, and a lot of them are broken and destroyed. Now, whoever phonied up the little print pieces too, and in order to make these tablets. Now, see that little clay box we'd showed you earlier? When it was soft, they had used the very same print tools to impress into that soft clay. A lot of these little engravings you see here, they say they hung around their neck. Most of them had a hole in them, and they hung them around their neck. There's even some people that have claimed these are seer stones. I don't know if that's true or not. Now here's the big tablet. Here's Wayne May. He actually had some gloves with him, and I have a paper towel I'm using here. Now we're going to zero in on the top panel of this. You got to look at this and think about it. These are wonderful. Study this first panel if you. Now in this one, it appears that the being that has breasts, Eve, I would assume, is now picking fruit from this tree and handing it over to Adam. And it's interesting because if you look at this tape, they don't want you to see these. Somebody doesn't want you to see them. This is an interesting one here. It shows a circular, I don't know what it is, but there are lots of circular calendars in this collection. And it's interesting that these circular calendars have 13 lunar cycles. And we only got to see one side of the one. It has printing or information on both sides, and so does the remaining tablet. So there's a lot of information we've lost. This tablet we just passed shows Moses again receiving the 10 Commandments. Now, how did Adamic writings get on those tablets? Did those guys know those writings? I have translations from one man that claims it's Adamic, and I have another monk out of Burma that is a reader of all the tablets and a memorizer of all the tablets. He claims he can read it, and I hope to be able to have him translate it to determine if it's Adamic. Now, this is me and my big stomach, and this is the brass plates. I don't know if it's the brass plates, but these are brass plates, and the writings on them are also Adamic. And we go through all of these and show you all of those. I'm sorry we didn't have more time to do a better job of taking these pictures, but I think these are tremendously valuable artifacts, and if we could read them, we had a real seer who could read these for us, I think we would learn a lot, because if they're true, they predate the printing of the Bible, like I say, the printing of the Book of Mormon. Some of these with Adamic on it either had to be written by the Jaredites because they retained their original language, or they were written by the people during Adam's time. That really throws a wrench in the mix. What are they doing over here in America?